Hello, and welcome back to another week of the DP World Tour picks and bets. Skylar Hoke here, joined with Tom Jacobs. Tom, how you doing today?
Good. Obviously good from the Nacho Elvira win at 100-1. Sky, sort of just, not to, I mean, this is a little bit of, I guess, promotion for us, right? But like 4 winners in 12. I looked back because I was thinking about how many times we've actually done this show this year. And it's not many, right? Like it's 12 times this year we've had 4 winners. And that doesn't account for the fact that we've been close in other weeks as well. So conceivably, say every other week we're pretty close. And once every 3 weeks we give you a winner. So and decently priced as well. That's the main thing, right? They've all been decent odds. They've not been favourites. So yeah, feeling good from that respect. Obviously, tough weekend in golf in general, which we'll obviously talk about in a sec. But yeah, overall, obviously about the show and about the DP World Tour, felt really good. It felt good to have a good event back last week and a good field. Thomas Peters played well after. He was the one I was worried about, right? Like we'd said, we weren't sure the course was a good fit. I think he was just playing way too well in the end that he overcome that. So I was worried in the final day that was going to come back to bite me, but Elvira finally got it done.
He did. He did, in great fashion, man. Kudos to you, Tom. I mean, a triple-digit winner, it's not easy, and talking about the show in that manner, right? It's been a heck of a 2024. We could go bagels, complete zeros for the rest of the year and still be in the green in the position we are. And we're betting two cards. It's hard to completely tail. I'm sure there's some that pick and choose from each side, and it's not all that easy, but I think we've got a good recipe, especially with the stop and start nature of this tour, man. It's been a doozy of a year and been rewarded handsomely for that. So congratulations to you and to Nacho. I mean, it was wire to wire, wasn't it? It was the whole way, or at least through the weekend, he had command.
Yeah, he hit back-to-back 7-unders, didn't he? I don't know if someone was...
Actually, no, he wasn't first round leader because Sammy Jones was, yes.
So he was in the lead after day 2, right, and then held on. Look, it looks a little bit suspect at times, as it often does. I mean, Ben points out that he's had massive leads and grinded out wins, but doesn't matter. He got the job done, and very pleased to be on.
It's always doozy following Ben when he's have a leader in there too. He's one of a kind in his tilt side of things, but. No, congratulations to you. And yes, you kind of hit on the somber note. I think we need to make sure, we make a point to have a conversation or at least a couple talking points about the sad passing of Grayson Murray. I think it really hits home, man. I mean, he's our age, right? He's somebody who we've seen his whole professional career basically and known of the ups and downs behind the scenes and in the public manner, which he talked about, right? I think that's the really troubling thing, man. It seemed somebody like him who was willing to hold and share the burden of what he was feeling to limited times we get to hear him speak, right? But for those that struggle and have that feeling of depression, addiction, just something that is a lifelong illness that even when the skies are clear, it still lives within, like that's the thing that I feel has really resonated with me when thinking back on it, and can't even imagine, some of those last moments, the fact that he, played golf, was out there, 12 hours before taking his own life. Like it's such a sad and heartbreaking reality to see that happen. And we could spend a lot of time talking on it. For anybody, I think my biggest challenge and thing that I want to make sure to be willing to do at any and all times for anybody is we can have a conversation. I'm here for that manner, right? That's part of the opportunity of getting to have a platform that we do is I want to make sure that we're not closed off. We're not anywhere that we can't be talking to anybody. We get to have a unique situation where we have people that reach out to us for things we like and enjoy tipping and talking about. And that's a bubble in which we live and maybe escape some of our realities of life in too, right? And having a common theme with somebody who may be going through so much different than we don't know about, it's okay to have that conversation and reach out, and we're people and human too, and we face some of those same struggles. So forever available for conversation, and challenge everybody to have that, because just talking with people and knowing friends and people that have been in that manner, right? You can be as positive and reinforcing to that individual, but it may take an army to really realize how many people are for you, or you might be that one person that says one nice thing that could change, that literally could change a life. That could be the arm that they need around them in that exact moment, and you never know when that is. So
Yeah.
that's been my headspace.
Yeah, I think you've touched on all the key points. I mean, I sort of spoke about Grayson at length really on the podcast yesterday with Matt. And the first thing I wanted to do is kind of celebrate the career that he'd had. I think from a golf perspective, I think just looking at his achievements whilst he was going through all this, like, it's easy to forget, like, he actually struggled with this before he even turned pro. He pulled out from an amateur event when he was leading because of the anxiousness. And it's been a lifelong battle. And I think because he's put himself in situations that I don't want to talk about, ill of him, like he's had some negative comments towards him and a lot of negative connotations that people then can't see past that, right? And in the midst of all of that was, a real personal struggle. And I think what really hit home was the two things that you said, which was that he was our age, and I think that's really haunting. Like, I feel like I've just started in life, and his has sadly come to an end. And the second one is the fact that really it looked like he was getting his life, together, right? Like, that was a really horrible thing. Like, and I didn't think this was even a conceivable notion 2 or 3 years ago when he was really at his lowest, when he, had the scooter accident he's referenced and things like that. Like, you never even consider this. And then when you see him come back, win 2 times on the Corn Ferry Tour last year and win on the PGA Tour this year, you think, wow, like, what space must he have been in to still want to make that decision? And as you said, Sky, like I said to Matt yesterday, like, we might not have, we have a decent, social media following between the two of us, right? And we have people reach out to us all the time, and we have a modest channel and modest program following, right? But the most important thing is that there are people that reach out to us about golf, and reach out to us about things and ask us to come on podcasts. And one thing I think we're both pretty good at doing is trying to reply to as many comments and tweets and messages as we can, and offer support to people. And I said, like, one of the things, like, I've been very fortunate that we've been given this platform as me and you as a show. You've come and helped me on my podcast, and you do build up a comfortability of having those people that who to talk to. And one of the things was, like I said yesterday, I'm no expert in grief, in tragedy, in alcoholism, or anything like that. I don't think I'm the sort of person to help in that respect. But if you want to speak to me about golf, about anything else in life, even if you do want to speak to me about that, I'll definitely try my best. But it's having that outlet, like you said. I think one of the things I said is just so important to have a hobby. Like, I spend so much time talking about golf, and I still enjoy it because of the manner of the people I speak to. So if people want to reach out to us and just say, look, just want to talk to you about who I'm picking this week, and it might just be that's the 10-minute escape that you need, because there might not be someone at home that's interested in talking about golf with you. I think that's a massive thing, right? Like, I'm very fortunate that my partner will tolerate me talking about golf indoors, or my dad, or whatever. But not everyone's like that, and some people just don't get the chance to get that off their chest. So certainly we're here for anyone who wants to talk, and Grayson Murray will be sadly missed from the golf hole.
Yep, 100% echo your thoughts, and it's a hard transition to just talk about the abrupt and to go back, and that's not to be taken lightly, right?
Yeah. Like, I didn't want to talk about golf on Sunday. Like, as much as I was sort of celebrating a win, and we've obviously spoke about that, once things started going wrong at the Charles Schwab, I didn't want to moan. I didn't want to moan about it. I didn't want to talk about the fact that my bets were going wrong, because things are just way more important, right? I think also one thing to really sort of hit home about is that betting isn't always the best outlet, right, for these sort of things as well. So, like, sometimes if that's getting in the way or causing problems, then you should always do it responsibly and still enjoy it, right? So that would be another thing that is worth mentioning. But with all that said, Sky, like, I think the main people do tune into this reason is for an outlet, is to enjoy themselves, is to give themselves 45 minutes to enjoy the golf this week. And I'm happy to carry on providing that as we can.
Yep, absolutely. And a lot of the nature of what we bet on is who we are betting on, getting to know these guys as people, and kind of their lives through social media, through watching. Like, that's part of the absolute fun of that, and getting to follow careers like that, and basically having connection through this type of thing. And we'll continue to do that. And we're going to head over to Germany for the European Open, a course and event that we are fondly familiar with through the years. One of the longest, no longer referred to as the Porsche European Open, but it's still at Green Eagle Golf Courses here. Do you want to give an overview, Tom, of kind of what we're thinking from a course preview aspect?
Yes, it's funny, isn't it? Because when you look at it, it's a really long course, long for the sake of being long, a lot of drivers. But as we've kind of noticed over the years, shorter hitters, Richard McAvoy's won here. Paul Casey wasn't the longest. He's obviously certainly capable of getting it away in there. But like, it wasn't absolute bomber's paradise, right? But that does seem to be the prerequisite that you should be looking at. And I think the reason why it doesn't get completely bomber heavy is because of those water hazards. There's water everywhere. You can get yourself into trouble. I think there's doubles around every corner. And I think that's what levels the playing field. So ultimately, I think you just need a good blend of total driving. Scrambling is going to be important on a lot of holes, and just avoiding those water hazards is key. So I don't think it matters too much. I don't think I'd want to box myself in with just long hitters. But certainly, if you're looking for a profile, if you're stacking a talent level and a profile, it would be those bigger hitters.
Right. We've seen winners of McKibben last year. Samoye, Armitage, Paul Casey, McAvoy, Smith, all here. What I think is one of my favorite aspects is it's just more of a test, right? We're going to see, 3 consecutive years of single digit winners. I know one of them was 54 hole event there, but it's just a different spell that we see sometimes, especially on the PGA Tour versus here. I guess last week Colonial provided a nice test too from some scoring ability, but just a course overall that I enjoy and like that it has opened doors to full aspects of game of plays that can make sense here. And we do get, I guess, a classic, I would say, DP World Tour field, right? McKibben is the favorite this week. Jordan Smith back, Rasmus Højgaard, Wiesberger now making his way week after week, Laurie Cantor, all are golfers that are 30-1 or lower. I feel like Byrne could be the one for me that's like, okay, right, just same type of thing. If we're going to look into just pure ball striking it over and over again and getting into score, or I would say ball strikers probably do their best work when the score to par is closer versus a 25 under type of week, right? So that would be the reasoning for selecting Byrne at the top. I'm okay passing anywhere here. Anybody you were intrigued by?
Yes, I think you're right that made a ton of sense up here. I've gone one other way, and I'll start my selections with that. And it's tough. This is a really, really tough sell for me, right? That I've gone from Bernd Wiesberger. I've been pretty high on all season long. I'm going to go with Richard Mansell, right? And we've talked about him, Sky, like at length. Like he's someone that you've experimented with. It's someone that I've been very vocal about oppositionally, but also then tried to take a chance on him who's been a bigger number, and we've ultimately come up short. And that's because he has come up short every single time. You cannot deny his skill set. He is a great driver of the golf ball. He's a good iron player on his day. He can get streaky with the putter. It's just that when he's putting in contention, he's not good. But he was 7th in tee to green again last week, 22nd in approach. That was part of his 13th place finish at the Sadao Open. He was 9th going into the final round. You do hate to see him sort of going backwards on a Sunday, regardless of whether he's right in contention or not. But again, it was 4 rounds of sub 70, which was tough last week. 36th hole leader at the Singapore Classic, but then shot the 3rd round 75. Did have to withdraw the following week at the Indian Open, then had a bit of a break before missing the cut in Japan. But a couple of good signs from both of those as well. And then, of course, something that you keep a good eye on, Sky, is the US Open qualifying at Walton Heath. He was one of those guys that got himself into the field. So looks like he's found some momentum at the right time. And then you look at his course record here, and it's impressive. Like, it's not an easy golf course to keep making the cut at, and he's finished 3rd and 29th the last 2 years. Didn't break 70 when he finished 3rd, so you can sort of see what led to keeping him around a week, but also was probably the difference between him winning or losing. But then, like last year, he was really disappointing until the final round where he shot 68. It's a tough grab. It's definitely a tough grab. But would I much rather he was 40-1? Of course I would. But I just felt like the skill set and the fact I just didn't. We've spoken about this a couple of times now, Sky. Apart from Bernd Wiesberger, the top looks tough. Like, yes, Tom McKibben makes perfect sense, but he's defending. He hasn't necessarily got himself in masses of contention since then. Jordan Smith's been okay. Rasmus Højgaard's been disappointing. Laurie Cantor's
Cantor, I thought, ticked a few boxes, but again, the same question marks as Mansell.
Limited as well, like limited starts, and yes, he looks good, and we saw with Peters what he can do now. But I just felt that Mansell, with the overall body of work with the course form, really took my eye at the top.
Yeah, I completely get it. I ended up, I think your guy might be the same price as overseas as my next one here. I'll just to go back and forth for it.
Yeah.
My biggest question mark, pretty much when I looked at the entire top of the leaderboard, was on a Sunday, am I going to trust them? Like, that's be more or less because I did feel like I could make arguments for a few different guys, right? I did think the Wiesberger, the Mansell, the Norgard Moeller, the Cantor, like I could make a lot of your next selection, a lot of arguments. And the one that I felt like has played awfully well when in the mix and then really comes up over from what I would say is a career week, despite only being 53rd of the PGA Championship. But it just kind of put, a feather in the cap of the year that Jesper Svensson has had, right? And picks up that win at the Singapore Classic with a Sunday 63 to come out of nowhere to win that event, right? Multiple other second place finishes to kick off the year for him. One, I mean, I would say a 71 the first time around, a 70 the other time around. Like, things go right, he could probably have 2 wins, this year. Not to say, I mean, a lot went right for him in Singapore to win that event, but he's also at three other top 20s. We've established that he's one of the best drivers on the entire tour, was awesome. Strokes gained off the tee at the PGA Championship, made the cut with pretty much ease there in a major debut. I think just riding that high and then coming to a course like this is something that really fits into his game, and a little bit more up the odds board, 45-1. You get a 6th place each way at Rivers here in the States with that. I just feel like he's just on such a momentum train that I'm more confident landing there than some of the guys lower.
Yeah, and I think with Svensson, when I looked at this, and when you're looking at the type of profile of someone that hasn't played here yet, you're sort of a little bit of guesswork. He fits the mold, right? Like, who is the best player to fit this golf course without even looking at form and everything like that? And it just was Svensson. Like, he's right up there. Like, off the tee, as you said, is incredible. And we see so often that they get a taste of a higher level, they play well, and suddenly they drop. This is a drop down from us. It's a massive drop down from what you just experienced, right? And all of a sudden, he may just feel a little bit a step above what he felt before he came into the PGA. And I think if he is what we think he's going to be, Sky, this is a really good spot for him. And I think we'll learn a lot. I've said this a couple of times recently. Like, if the players play up to what we think they should do and where they should succeed, that's a really good sign. Like, yes, you want players that can spike, and you've got the Elviras and things like that. But what you like is when you go, right, okay, with Elvira, he was second in Kenya. Can he go and win at a course where Kenya players have played well? Yes, he does. Can Jesper Svensson go and play well at a golf course that suits his off the tee game? If he does, then you feel really good about what he goes going forward, and you have a lot more confidence in profiling for these sort of courses going forward, because he hasn't played many of them.
Yeah, no, I think you're completely right. Land on, this is an old friend of yours for your next selection, one that you tipped quite a bit last year or in kind of our lead up years to this one, and a shorter number than we're accustomed to, but yeah. Tell us why, like Paul Waring, you're so confident in now in this range for him.
But this is the thing, right? Like, when I was betting Paul Waring, it was like 100-1, and he was letting me down, and suddenly I'm here at 40-1. I'm going again, but he's just been, when everyone else has kind of been a bit back and forth and not really been able to keep momentum going in a stop-start season, Waring's been really solid. He was 29th at the Johnson Workwear Open. He was 10th after round 1, 16th after round 3. He was 49th at the Singapore Classic, but he was 9th after round 1, 4th after round 2, and just had a poor weekend. He did miss the cut once in Japan, but I'm not too worried about that. Like, things can get pretty quirky when you go over to Asia if you're not suited to that type of golf course. but then bounces straight back and finishes third in China. So having said that, the Asian for too long, and then comes right back and finishes 10th last week at the Sadao Open. And when you look at the course form, which I have done this week, particularly for this golf course, because I think it's not so much like I needed to see someone contending here before. I needed to see someone getting around, through 4 rounds of avoiding those penalty areas, putting solid scores together. And he finished 28th on his debut here. He was, had a slow round, but then went 72, 72, 69. Missed a cut a couple of years ago, but then 10th last year. And he was inside the top 10 all week. So do I think Paul Waring should be 40-1? And do I think it's a huge winning upside? Potentially not, but I do think the each way value, if you can get it, is great. And I do think he's really solid. So he was the preferred journeyman up here. And then I've gone with the high upside, and this was who edged out Jesper Svensson for me. Sky with Sam Bairstow. Like I said, I don't know when I'm going to go back to him. This is the week I'm going to go back to him. It just keeps going, Sky. Like it just keeps going. Every single week we think, this is going to be the week he fades away. He was 36-hole leader in Japan after being the 54-hole leader, although not 54-hole, the final round leader at Singapore, where he finished third. Think how long is he going to last? He's 36-hole leader in Japan, finishes 36th. Thinking, okay, that's disappointing. Then finishes 23rd in China, where he had 3 rounds. Maybe if he had a further round, he'd have flown up the leaderboard again. And then last week, which I loved, this a huge character moment for him. He was 136th after round 1 last week. He shot a 74. And you think, okay, this is potentially Sam Bairstow's run over. Shoots a bogey 365 on Friday, follows up with 63 on Saturday. You think, okay, we've got a player on our hands here. Finishes inside the top 10. And yeah, I just love what he's the body of work, the high upside of him. I do think he's going to win at some point soon, and I'll keep taking him all the time. He's still a little bit disrespected, I think. Like I completely understand why people are coming with like Niergaard Peterson this week, the way he's been playing on the Challenge Tour, but to be exactly the same price for someone that's been doing it on DP World Tour all season, I think was quite surprising. To be bigger than Yannick Paul, who's struggling, to be bigger than, to your point, Norgard Muller earlier, where like we know he struggles in contention. Bigger than all these guys, right? And I just think there's still that little area of unknown where Bairstow could be a huge, proven commodity in a couple of years' time that we look back on as very favourably.
I 100% agree with you when it comes to Bear. So I'm making an excuse in my head saying he played so well because the fact that basically he was out of contention got him into this hopes of just chase and doing great. Like I want to see it a little bit more in the thick of it, but I said that on a lot of these. I say that and also meaning that I bet a bunch of Challenge Tour guys that we don't know if they can do it early on in the season. We're, like you said, we're 12 events in, 10 events in for some of these guys. Like plenty of chances to still be taken overall. So yeah, I'm completely good with it. For me though, in the same range, I have to bet Guido, man. I just have to bet Guido. It's every sign is repointing to him kind of getting back in a flurry, led the field in strokes gained approach last week. I vividly remember him playing super well in this event when he was kind of in his strong suit of DP World Tour time period. We got a second in China without the last round. We have him just missing out on the U.S. Open qualifying inside the top 10 through 54 holes last week. Just had 0 short game. His irons were on fire. It should line up awesome here for him. I think it's just a rinse and repeat. And now at 50s, I still think the price is fair. So I'm more than good going back to Guido.
I'm surprised he's 50s. Like he's a popular player, right? Like there's as many people like you out there that want to bet Guido Migliozzi whenever they get the opportunity, right? And I am surprised he's 50-1. I was close. I think the tee to green has been really encouraging. That's the main thing, right? Like keep an eye on that. He led the field in approach last week. And as I say, just generally hitting the ball pretty well, 9th and 5th for last 2 in tee to green. Yeah, I guess I went with my old favourite of Paul Waring, and you went with your definite favourite in Guido Migliozzi. That's just the range we're in. But yeah, hopefully it works.
Have to. I mean, you did hit on Niergaard Peterson, who's now right 1 win away from getting on to the DP World Tour. Could jumpstart that this week.
Yep.
We jump both of us down now into triple digits. we've talked quite a bit. I think we can go kind of right to our guys that we're landing on. First one, somebody who you've kind of at least had on the radar and been talking through for a good amount of time, but I haven't been as keen on backing him in the past. But Brandon Stone seems prime for just an absolute pop this week. Two top 20 events in a row leading into this one. And then what I find intriguing is, you've gotten me into this habit of looking into round by round type of events, right? 73 he opens with. Then he shoots a 6.5 on Friday, 74 on Sunday or Saturday, and then a 66 on Sunday. It's just all right there, right? I mean, those rounds were spectacular. Some of the best top 5 rounds of the day. To put two of those together and then finish 57th in the event maybe says something, but it's also probably why he is 100-1 this week. We've talked about Stone's pedigree winning a pretty big event in the past, shooting sub 60, fifth here in 2022. What else is there to say about Brandon Stone this week?
Yeah, I mean, it might actually, where I said it was the bogey-free Friday from Bairstow, it might have actually been Brandon Stone I was thinking of, because that's what I've got written down here. A bogey-free Friday to bounce back from that really poor start last week. And as you said, he had the 2 spike rounds. And as you say, I do look into those individual rounds more so than anything, really. Like, just to trying to get the clues. Like, we can kind of look at, okay, you finished 22nd or 47th or 57th or whatever, but it's really seeing how we got there, right, is what really catches my eye. And as you said, he had the 2 top 20s going into last week before he finished 57th. And the 5th here 2 years ago was so encouraging because it started with an opening round of 76. He was 90th after round 1. Shot 68 on Friday. He was inside the top 20 then. Climbed the leaderboard into 17th for 73. So it must have really been a tough Saturday. And then, shot a final round 69 to finish 5th. So as it got tougher, he played better. And I feel really confident when a player does that. And look, he is very volatile, but I think this is a volatile golf course. And I think even if he was finishing 4th, 5th, and 6th every week, he could still go and shoot the numbers that he shot last week on this golf course. So I'm not too worried about the fact that he's kind of going good, bad, good, bad. If anything, it might just lead to him, spiking here. And actually, this wider numbers the way it is, because he really should be a 50, 60, 70-1 golfer. He shouldn't be 100-1. So I'm willing to take the upside on what Stone's been showing us this season.
He had arrived there in 2022 again as a debutant on the course. Miscut, 43rd miscut, 40th miscut. Like, those are always encouraging to see. That's the history that I'm more confident in than somebody who is a great golfer playing well once again. So very, very keen on Stone. And then our next golfer, I'll let you lead in, as you hit a big ticket on him in the past on our show here. But why do we love Danny Willett?
Yeah, this could come too early for Danny Willett. Like, I think that's one thing to say straight off the bat. Like, but he was so impressive. I mean, you spoke off air when we were talking about it with Willett. Like, he should have been inside the top 5 going into the weekend at Augusta. Had a triple bogey on the final hole, and I think that kind of just took the steam out of him as he sort of fell down the leaderboard in the end. I don't think he would be playing here if he was still struggling with his injuries. So I'm quite encouraged that he's even starting. It's not an event that he's played before, or certainly not this golf course, right? So I think it's nothing like he's got an affinity with it. So I think he's ready to go, and I think he's ready to jumpstart his season. And Danny Willett in full flow on the DP World Tour is certainly a sight to behold. And he's just better than a lot of players in this field, right? Like, he's just a better player. I know he's a Masters winner. I know people say, well, he's got, Spieth gagged it or whatever, but he was still a major contender before that. He'd finished one in the Open. That's why people were so high on him going into that Masters. He'd won earlier in that season as well. I think personally it's a huge price, 125-1. You're just taking a chance that he's match fit. Has he got enough reps in? The answer is no, he hasn't. But it's whether he can deal with that on top of it. So I'm confident he can, as someone that's been a winner on him before.
Right. I mean, the DP World Tour did just post a video just a little bit ago on Willett on the range, kind of talking through with his coach. Maybe not the most confidence inspiring on his swing thoughts, but regardless, right, he has played one event since his shoulder surgery. Came back early to play at the Masters. again, the Masters, a major, he was near the first round lead, right? I mean, he was in the thick of it. Irons were absolutely firing, came out of nowhere. That was a surprise of Thursday for a lot of people. And the fact that he carried it over to be inside the top 12, I think it was, after round two, again, triple bogey 18. He would have been 4 under after 2 rounds when the leaders were at 6 in his first start back. That is just as eye-catching as it comes for me when you look at somebody in the triple digits. You don't have, I mean, we have Jesper Svensson off of a T53 on my card that I'm feeling confident in from that, right? Who didn't sniff that type of a leaderboard there. I mean, it again was encouraging because his irons were so good. And you're right. I mean, he could have been and should have been a PGA Tour winner last year, right? Won the Alfred Dunhill Links for you. Like, it's a range of discovery for Danny Willett, and we're willing to bet that when literally no one else is on or even cognizant of him probably being in the field.
He was 8th after round 2, Sky. So
Yeah.
he was inside the top 10 after both. He was still 21st going into the Sunday. And look, there's always that concern that these players know Augusta so well. He's a former champion there, that he just felt comfortable, went out, shot, a casual 68, and that was it. And that was really the only massively positive round. But he feels that way coming back to the DP World Tour. That's the thing. Like, if he was going to play a PGA Tour event, no. Like, I'm not interested. I don't see it. He's coming back at a level that he, definitely feels comfortable at. He's a multiple-time winner. He's a major winner. And you talk about the reference that, yes, it's a bit of a concern he's working with his coach so late, but, like, he's not played. So that's how he's going to get his reps in, right? Like, he's going to have to just be on the range and crush balls. And actually, from a fitness perspective and a health perspective, I'm quite glad to see him out there hitting balls into the late week. So it probably comes too soon, but 125 to 1. I'm always going to take a chance on someone like that.
Yep, absolutely. As we go through, I've got a couple more long shots to close out, but they're deeper here. We can just rattle off a couple in the early triple digits. We get some fun spot starts. Robin Williams is back in the field. I will say I'm not on at the moment. I have more than enough space on the card to add him again. I mean, he has now cut his teeth a little bit more on the Challenge Tour, finished 5th in his debut, has played some Asian Tour events and done well. Like, realistically, I'll probably just be adding him to the card. I guess he's out to 300 here in the States. So yes, Robin Williams will be at 300 without a doubt. He was like 150s to open the week. So I think him at 300s, I am more than good about. If you remember, lost in the playoff against Jordan Gumberg on our card that week. Now, that was in South Africa, where he was a little bit more comfortable and playing quite a bit. He's a Sunshine Tour guy, but he has sky high talent. So Robin Williams was one that stuck out, getting a spot start at 300s there. Anybody for you in the early triple digits?
I was interested, at least, in Andrew Wilson. I've mentioned him a couple of times in the last year or so. Like, driving seems to be something that he's been decent at in the past. He finished 26th at the Kolkata Challenge, and I said that he might just go on and play well in the Indian Open because he was already in there and over in India, and he was 9th going into the final round, finished 26th. Followed that up with a 19th at the Abu Dhabi Challenge. Didn't play very well after that. But then last week came back at the Sadao Open, finished 18th, where he was 2nd after round 1 and still 6th going into the final day. And he has made a cut here. He finished 52nd last year. So just someone I think can probably, give you it's probably more of a top 40, top 20 play more than anything. But he was the name I was at least interested in. Matthias Schwab was absolutely horrible last week, but he likes his golf course. And I do think he will. I do believe in the long-term talent of him. So those are the couple that I kind of looked at.
Yeah, I was intrigued at going back to Cantero. I think this might be a better course fit, leaning into his game a little bit more. I'm okay passing, but I could see it absolutely popping. There's one other one. Oh, Hidalgo looked okay. Freddie Scott has been tipped a couple of times. That could make sense. The one that I really like, just from a true gut perspective, Dan Bradbury should eat this type of course up. This should be where he excels. Like, you don't have to putt that well if you just hit every green here, man. Like, you should be tailor-made for difficult tests on the DP World Tour. All he does is continue to hit good irons, and he can't putt for anything. So I took a triple check on that just because it felt okay at the number, because he's now triple digits. But the two outside of Robin Williams that I landed on there, Tom, the feeling of seeing Sam Jones 9 under after the first round, man, like that, especially knowing, like, we talked James Nicholas, who did well last week. I thought Nicholas was pretty good. We bet Galletti, I was on Galletti. Sam Jones is the third wheel of the guys that we've been betting and talking about. And for him to have an albatross round one, shoot 9 under, I thought he was just going to prance on and maybe steal that first win. And, he didn't play bad. He just basically stuck it in neutral for 3 rounds. He posts a lot on his Instagram. I think he had won a smaller event in New Zealand during the break, just trying to play a lot and do a lot. And, I think now that we get him after seeing that, he opened at 500s. I saw people get back right on 250s now. I'm good with going back to Sam Jones at 250.
And that albatross came after 3 birdies as well, I think, right? Like he was six under in 4 holes. Like, unbelievable. Like, great talent, a huge upside. I think we spoke about him on the preview show earlier in the season. One thing I do want to quickly mention before we wrestle off our last pick here, Sky, was one of the links. I love these links, and it sort of helps with Elvira last time. Czech Masters, right? We've had Maximilian Kiefer win there, finished second here. Johannes Bierman won there, finished 10th here. Sean Crocker was second there, 11th here. Tapio Pulkkinen was second there, 18th here. Paul Peterson was a winner there, 13th here. Robert McIntyre, 4th there, 2nd here. Bernd Ritthammer, 18th there in a Czech, 2nd here. Very limited top finishes on the DP World Tour. Tia Schwab, 5th and 9th there, 2nd here. And yeah, Will Besson, 14th there, 2nd here. Julian Guerrier, 9th there, 2nd and 10th here. So all of these guys with a massive amount of crossover of those two, which makes sense, big hitting golf course. And the one person I think that I haven't really mentioned to you or even in this little segment here that could potentially lead to is the most recent winner of the Czech Masters, which is Todd Clements, right? Like, good driver of the golf ball, played well last week. Where did he finish in the end? He was inside the top 20, 18th last week he finished. Beat Matt Wallace there, I believe it was, for the Czech Masters when Wallace was gunning for, Ryder Cup contention and things like that. So Todd Clements could be interesting. I think he's someone that would make a ton of sense from that comparison. I know he did play well. He did play here and missed the cut last year, but it doesn't bother me too much.
What about a recent T22 performance at the Czech Masters, Tom, by somebody who also finished T14 at the European Open last year? Somebody who, if I was head-to-head in a long-distance challenge, despite me still hitting a Sasquatch in my bag, I think I could keep up with the distance of Pedro Figueiredo. And it doesn't make sense, Tom, that he can compete here when they're that long of a course. But he's got an affinity for here. And 500 to 1 after being second to only the Guido Migliazzi in approach last week when we had Shot Tracker back. It was so good to just be able to sweat miss putts again in Shot Tracker. And to get Figueiredo with some real numbers at 500 to 1 this week, Tom, we can't say no.
Yeah, like the first thing I texted you this week was like, it's Fig week. And you said, what about Guido? And I said, look, it's Fig week. Like, that's all we need to worry about for now. He shouldn't be able to compete here at the Czech Masters, but he does. The one thing that concerned me, like, I was looking at like where he would have played well on like short golf courses where he doesn't. So like maybe this guy just goes, you know what? I hit my driver short, but my long irons really well. 33rd here, 14th here, and the 33rd he was actually inside the top 10 going into the weekend. So I think it's probably more of a top 20, top 40 play, which I'm sure you'll add to your card as well with the probably top 10 and top 20. But do I think he can win? No, but do I think he can get in the mix? Especially after a couple of rounds. Good first round leader bet potentially. I think he's someone that could get on a roll, not have to go too low to achieve that. So Pedro Figueiredo makes a ton of sense.
Yep. So we'll close out on him, and then the other spot start I'm not on, but excited to see Veer Alawat getting another stop after playing so well for us in the Hero Indian Open. Cool. We'll close it out on that. Before we review our betting cards, make sure we'll give a shout out to our audio listeners. You can find us on Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets, The Mix. Appreciate all the love, support when we get. The comments go a long way. And for feedback for us too, man. We're open to that always, and willing and wanting to change and evolve to keep up with everybody. So Tom, if you want to go through your betting card here.
Yeah, just a final word on everything that we've sort of said here as well. Like, when we say that, please do reach out if you want to. We talk about how one very quick message can go a long way. I've been on the receiving end of it. The guys, when they comment on our show and we get a big win, it feels great, and the feedback we get in the comments, even the negative stuff, it actually really helps us. Like, people talking about quality and sound and things that we pass on to try and get these improved. Like, we will do everything we can. But yes, summary of the betting card: Richard Mansell 28-1. Sam Bairstow at 40-1, Paul Waring at 40-1, Brandon Stone at 100-1, Danny Willett at 125-1, and then probably a top 20, top 40 bet on Pedro Figueiredo.
Awesome. I'm on Jesper Svensson, 45s. Guido Migliazzi, 50. Brandon Stone, 100. Danny Willett, 125. Sammy Jones, 250. Robin Williams, 300. Pedro Figueiredo, 500-1. Let's hit a big one, Tom. What's better than a strike rate of 4 out of 12? It's 5 out of 13, and you had a 500-1 winner in the mix there, man. We might be set for a decade at that point.
Yeah, I mean, we're overdue, right? Like, it's been at least a week. So, no, we've been very fortunate this season. We've had a lot of luck go our way. But also, like you said, Robin Williams didn't go our way, right? Like, Veer Alawat, huge each way price. Like, there's been Sam Bairstow's been in the lead and throw one away for us at triple digits. So, it could conceivably be an even better season. So, looking forward to the rest of the year. Let's make sure we keep it going. And as you said, let's try and hit Brandon Stone. That seems more realistic at 100-1. We both like him. So, let's get Brandon Stone to get in.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, everybody. We appreciate the love and support. And again, we are here for anybody, always open to a conversation. We will catch you next week on the DP World Tour Picks and Bets. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.